Welcome to Building Stories, the podcast where we tell honest and sometimes funny stories about construction and digital transformation. Very excited and honoured to have Menno Jonge with us today. As a Director Digital Transformation Advisory at Saudi Contech, Menno is positioning Saudi Arabia as a leader in digital design and delivery in the international construction industry. With over 35 years of experience within the European construction industry and in construction technology, Menno brings perspectives from both sides of the technology spectrum. He's been responsible for digital implementations in the area of CAD, BIM, lean construction, data and document management, PLM, ERP, HRM, asset management, and more. He's been working with leading construction companies like Ballast Nadam and Royal BAM Group, worked with Autodesk and moved to Saudi Arabia to join NEOM. Also, he's been highly active in international industry standards bodies such as NCORD and Building Smart International. So very highly credentialed, Menno, and we're very blessed to have you with us, mate.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a long story, but it's also a result of a long career. So that's what happens when you work in the industry for a long time.
And hopefully we can dig into some of that today. Let's go right back to the beginning, though. In your young years, maybe when you're just a young boy, were there any hints that you would be involved in this industry when you grew up?
Yeah, I like that question. Yeah, I think there were some hints. And maybe even before I was thinking about the industry. I think I would like to mention that my dad, my father was an engineer. He worked at one of the famous international companies called Philips, the electronics company, and he was more or less the inventor of the Stirling cryogenic cooling machine. And this is a machine that he developed by himself together with a team of people in the physics laboratory in Philips. And he was always bragging about his stuff that he was doing in this organization. And this was a cooling machine that was able to reach almost 0 degrees Kelvin, which is minus 270 degrees Celsius. So the absolute lowest temperature that you can reach. So I remember the days that he took us to his laboratory where they had a setup with this machine, and he had this tennis ball, and he was bouncing it on the floor, and then he put it in this machine. And he took it out and dropped it on the floor, and it cracked to pieces like a Christmas ball falling, or a glass ball falling on the floor. And so, yes, from my early days, always been fascinated about engineering, because my father was also very active in this field. And some hints that I've seen in the past. I loved building these little dams and rivers when we were on holidays in France, trying to change the influence of nature and work with water and try to block water and stuff like that. So dams was always fascination. And when I was young, I got a book about the Hoover Dam in the US, and that really fascinated me, how that was built. And I thought, let's move into that topic. So I think that was a little bit about my young years, how I got fascinated to work in this industry.
Yeah, that's incredible story of your dad as well. Did he encourage you to kind of make choices to kind of work in this industry, or did you kind of make some of those choices yourself through school and perhaps university?
Well, of course, he influenced me. Growing up in an engineering family with engineers around you, that really influenced me. But I took a different direction. He was really in the physics area of physics, and I was really fascinated by creating more visible things like buildings and dams and stuff like that. And also at that time, when I grew up in the Netherlands, a lot of huge projects were being built to manage the upcoming water in the Netherlands. We had this big flood in the 1950s in the Netherlands before I was born, and when I was in my early 20s, huge projects were going on in the deltas in the Netherlands to protect the Netherlands from the sea, with huge waterworks that were going on at that time. So that really influenced my choice to really focus on civil engineering at that time.
Yeah, all right. So we just talked about what was happening in the Netherlands there, and were there some key moments, perhaps as those big things were happening, in the country and as you were growing up? Were there some key moments that you made a decision that kind of set you up for the future?
Yeah, so yeah, that was really a big influence for me. And while in high school, yeah, you have a lot of different things that you're thinking about and doing, but this civil engineering was always something that really intrigued me. After high school, I decided to go on an exchange program for a year. I went to the US and went to the senior year in high school. So I was able there to also look at what they were doing in the field of engineering in the US, which also intrigued me very much. So we even visited some of the large hydraulic dams in the US. So yeah, that really strengthened my thoughts about taking up the study of civil engineering in college after I returned from the US back in the Netherlands. So yeah, I think if
Yeah, I
from
mean, the water and dams is a common theme so far,
yeah,
getting you into civil engineering there.
and it was also, and when I think about it, it's also intrigued by the fact that sustainability has always been a intriguing thing for me. It wasn't a priority in those times, but I remember that in the same physics laboratory my dad was working, they were working also on solar energy solutions, and that was mainly focused around building small scale solar installations to help people in Africa do their cooking instead of burning wood. They used some sort of solar system to help them do their cooking. So intrigued also by the sustainability aspects in the area of solar energy, hydraulic power, all these kind of things. So yeah, that was also an interest for me at those times.
Yeah. So you enter civil engineering, I'm assuming some decades ago. How has that discipline and kind of the industry changed or evolved since you first started?
In what ways? I think when I started, it was really in the Netherlands. It was really focused around protecting the country from the sea, the rising sea levels already at that time. So how has it evolved? I think more or less looking at the civil engineering projects are being done. It's quite similar. Of course, there's a lot of changes, but in general, it's still being done like it was done in the 80s when I was studying. But looking at all the changes that have happened in the space of digital applications and tools like that, but also looking at contracting and the way these projects have been executed, a lot of changes have been happening.
Okay, so the actual physical work or in the machinery and the way things are happening has not changed a whole lot, but a lot of things around that have evolved.
Yeah, I think if you look at the structures that are being built currently and that have been built many years ago, in essence, it still looks same. Of course, different kind of materials are being used. It all looks a bit more modern than it used to be, but in essence, the industry is not going through a lot of big change in that space. I think the biggest change that we see is in the area of applying digital technologies, but also things like robotics and those kind of things to really make the work easier during the construction phase.
So as that industry evolved and your career is going along, were there any challenges you specifically came up against along your career journey?
Yeah, I think a lot of challenges. If you take it in general during my whole career journey, I think the biggest challenge I've seen and the biggest learning I took out of my career is that making change happen in an organization only really works if you find the right balance between the topic of technology, process, and people. I think when applying this in a integrated way, looking at the technology side in one area, trying to change the industry by applying new technologies, and it can be in the space of digital, that can be new productivity technologies, etc., etc. That is probably an easier way to really make a change happen. But if you forget about looking at your processes, at your traditional analog processes, before you try to digitize those, you will not be successful. So you really need to look at your processes, try to re-engineer your processes, do them in a different way. And I think the biggest challenge that we have in the industry is the fact that we need to reskill, train, and educate our people, and also apply change management technologies to really make these changes successful. If you forget about your employees in your company, it is just impossible to make these changes happen. So it's an integrated approach between people, process, and technology. And when I started in Ballas NEOM, the first company I worked for, I really focused on the technology. We saw the first IBM PCs coming into the industry. We saw the first versions of AutoCAD coming into the industry, and I was really intrigued by using those technologies to make change happen. But there were only a few people that were picking up this possibility, and I didn't really understand why it was so difficult for people to make that change happen. Until I understood that, we've completely forgot about the other two main topics, the process, re-engineering processes, and the people side of things. So once we started to focus on those topics, suddenly we saw that people were picking up this, and they had time to make this change happen, and they understood that there were a lot of advantages to make this change happen. So I think that is the main challenge I've seen in the industry so far.
Yeah, and so you learnt firsthand about the importance of these three factors, and I guess each time you implemented change, it got a little bit better, yeah, because you had kind of learnt from the previous times.
Exactly, yeah.
And so what are you most proud of in your career to date, illustrious career? Is there a particular thing that stands out that you're really glad your name is attached to it?
Yeah, of course. I think I should say that I was so very, very proud of being asked to join NEOM in Saudi Arabia. NEOM as being the largest project currently being done in the world. So the largest turnover. Just looking at the unprecedented scale of this project, just amazing. So very proud to have been asked to join on that project. But there's also other projects in my career that have been very interesting and very challenging. At Ballas NEOM, the first company I worked for, we were building these modular mega scale bridges across the globe, like the Sturrebelt Bridge in Denmark. We built these kind of bridges in South America, in Canada, all over the globe. Modular way of working. So these bridges were the size of one of these elements were the size of a soccer field, and they were produced on shore and then lifted up by lifting vessels and placed on their pillars in the sea. So these projects just amazing what we've been doing there. At Royal BAM Group, where I worked for about 6 years, I think the project that I was most proud of was the Museum of the Future in Dubai. This donut-shaped building, that torus-shaped building that was built in Dubai, where Bureau Happold did the design, the project, and the engineering of the project, and then Royal BAM Group built the project in Dubai. Amazing building. If you have not seen that building, please look it up on the internet. It's just unprecedented, that project. And it's now a museum where you can view the future of mankind and how we will live in the future. Amazing. Yeah, but NEOM is probably the highlight of my career, and great project to work on, a great company to work for, and I must say that what's being done in NEOM at the moment is just unbelievable, amazing.
Yeah. How do you kind of link all that together? I guess you've come from this civil background, doing prefab probably before its time in some way, and now you're working on these very big projects. What were the kind of principles that were really useful through all of that? Was it future thinking? Was it just the ability to strategize? What was it that kind of made you useful on those projects?
Yeah. So I studied civil engineering in college. After that, I went into the military because that was still mandatory in the Netherlands. So I spent about 16 months in the military in the Netherlands. And I decided to continue my education and went to university in the Netherlands and studied building engineering. So I've been active in the field of civil and building engineering, so both sides. Actually, I wanted to start as an architect when I was in university, but after about half a year, I discovered that that was not really something for me. So really focused again on more the engineering part of the topic. University, my final thesis was really about developing a application in AutoCAD using the AutoCAD programming language AutoLisp. So used AutoLisp to develop an application, and it was a application to parametric design, automatically design a slab in an office building. So you the only thing you had to do was enter the width and the length of the slab in this office building, the load that was going to be on that slab, and the application automatically calculated the slab itself, the thickness of the slab, the kind of column that needed to be under there. All the reinforcement was calculated in this building, and all the drawings were produced from this application at that time. So in the end of the 80s, 1989, that was quite advanced in that time. That work has then been a theme throughout my career. So starting in NEOM, I was employed as a computer-aided design specialist at that time. So really focusing again on the technology side of things. So I helped the organization to develop a lot of small little programs to support the computer-aided design engineers to make their work easier, building menu files, and then moved into also educating and training those draftsmen in the organization, because we saw that was very important. And already in the early 90s, we started to move into topics like linking a schedule to a 3D model without even knowing that was the first steps of BIM we were applying in the company. We were doing quantity takeoff from our models without really knowing that we call that 5D at the moment, and all these things we were doing at the company at that time. So we were quite advanced in doing these things. So I think I've from the start of my career, I've always been at the forefront of these digital transformation activities. Throughout my career, I've seen these phases of transition happening. So starting at NEOM, there were still a lot of drawing boards in the office. So the first transition was removing those drawing boards and replacing them by CAD systems. The next transition was removing the 2D CAD systems for 3D applications, 3D modeling applications, and then slowly moving into BIM. And so all these transformations had been crossing my career. So I stepped into the industry in the right time. And my studies and my final thesis helped in really specializing in this area of computer-aided design, 3D modeling, etc. And I think I've been always one of the people that really have led this change in the industry. Mm-hmm. And I've been presenting about it many times at conferences and events all across the globe. So a lot of people are aware of the things I've been doing in my different organizations that really helped me move into to this position in NEOM. So I've always been seen as one of the leaders in this.
Yeah. So thinking about those three things that you brought up a few times now, the people, the process, and the technology, and you've implemented them inside organizations, do you find that any one of those is more difficult than another to kind of advance the change, or is it just a matter of balancing all of them?
Of course, it's a matter of balancing all of them. But the most difficult one of the three is the people side of things. And I think the reason for that is that most people I talk to in the industry are or have a engineering background, have a technology background. So they all think in a certain way, and they see opportunities, and they're maybe a bit too opportunistic in many cases. So they want to make change and don't think that changing an industry is a very difficult topic. When I was responsible for the digital transformation in Royal BAM Group, That was between 2016 and 2022, so about 6 years. We decided to hire real change managers in our organization. We were deploying a new common data environment for the whole organization, and we had a very difficult time to get that implemented in the organization. Technology-wise, it was not such a big problem, but really making people make the change happen, get people to really adopt these new ways of managing information in our processes, that was really difficult. So we hired change managers who were coming from a completely different backgrounds. So they were studying psychology in universities and those kind of backgrounds. And most of them were ladies, by the way. So that also was a change in our industry, because the majority of people in our industry are men. You can see that on this screen also. 3 men talking about the industry in this fire chat. So ladies with a completely different background, and that really worked in Royal BAM to have this completely different way of looking at how to make change happen and how to discuss the opportunities of doing things in a completely new way. I think that was for me a very great insight. And I've always been trying to keep on hiring people with completely different backgrounds, building teams that have people from different backgrounds, culturally, different sexes, different ages. So yeah, I think that really helps making this change happen.
So do you find it's easier to engineer water and move water than it is moving people and moving a company forward?
That's a good question. I think it's easier to block water than to block people, because I already did in my young years when I was camping in the south of France with my brother and my 2 sisters. We were building these dams in the river. So it's a piece of cake blocking water and changing the course of water, but changing the way people behave and changing the way to move people in a different direction is very difficult. And you can see it in our industry. I've been working in this space since the 1980s. Started my career in 1989 in Ballas Nedam, and look at me now. It's 35 years later and still struggling to make this change happen. It is really difficult. And of course, we do see a lot of great things happening, and the industry is moving into a right direction, and we see the labor productivity being improved, and we see efficiency being improved. We see the condition of our employees, our workers on the construction sites being improved. So we really see change happening, but it's going so slowly, especially compared to other industries like the car industry, the aerospace industry. It seems like they are doing a much better job in making this change happen.
Yeah, and I guess it's been a wrestle for us for some decades, hasn't it? But I think we're getting there. We're getting there. What's one piece of advice you would give someone who is now thinking of becoming a civil engineer, a building services engineer, working in construction? What advice would you give that person?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that the industry is just a great place to work. It is a very important industry. I think if you look at the industry, it represents about 15% of the global gross domestic product, the GDP. So that is an important industry. And specifically, if you look at the construction industry, every dollar that is being invested in the industry generates about 3 times of economic activity. So it is a very important industry. I think that's also why you see that if governments are using construction, look at infrastructure, look at generating new buildings. Governments use the construction as a method of how do you say that?
Invigorating the industry, kind of accelerating things.
Generate the economy, or to stimulate the economy, and
yes.
So construction is a very important industry, and I think also in Saudi Arabia currently it's a very good example of how Crown Prince here is using this as a means to really stimulate the economy. Saudi Arabia has been really dependent on their income on oil and gas in the last decennia, since oil was discovered here in the kingdom. But they understood now that that is not a sustainable way forward. So they need to do something to really diversify economies. So they're heavily investing in their Vision 2030. So they're building all these giga projects here in the kingdom, like NEOM, like Qiddiya, Diriyah, big airports that are being built, the large 400 by 400 by 400 meter cube that's being built in Riyadh. So a lot of effort is being put into construction. It's all about developing the economy here in the kingdom to make it less dependent from oil and gas. Yeah, I think the construction industry is a great industry to work in. So that would be my first advice. Second would be that when you start working in the industry, I see a lot of people in a lot of young people, specifically recently coming into the industry, and they want to make a very quick career to move into a project management role or director role as soon as possible. But I would advise to really take it easy and really try to understand the industry as a whole. Look at different kinds of career paths in the industry. Spend at least a couple of years on the construction side. Understand what's happening on site to really be able to really select your career path going forward. So I think that would be a second important advice. Don't go too fast. Try to understand the industry as a whole and maybe spend some time in different parts of the whole life cycle. Maybe some part in the engineering phase, design phase, some part in the work preparation phase, in the construction phase itself, and maybe also in the facility management phase of a project to really understand and grasp the whole area of the industry before really focusing on something that you would like to spend your career on for a longer time.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Like, not only do you want to follow your passion, but you're also working alongside a lot of other people, and you need to follow like the rules of the game. And so being exposed to many more, areas, it just really levels that up. The other thing that obviously teaches you is mistakes. And on this show, we like to kind of share some of the mistakes. I'm sure, you made one or two, but is there any mistakes that you've made along the way that really had a good impact on a course adjustment for you?
Yeah, I think that's a difficult question. Of course, I made mistakes. I'm thinking about what would be a good example to really show what. I think one good example is that I was trying to work with a project manager in a construction project that was being done in Indonesia. I really wanted to join that project and to help that project manager to make success happen. But he really didn't like me. He thought I was this nerdy tech guy, and I tried to. The mistake I made, I tried to really focus on the tech side of things and showed him that technology is making a change, and so really only focused on this technology side of things. And it even got worse and worse and worse, and he really didn't like me until I thought, hey, let's try to find another way of looking at this opportunity. So I really used a completely different approach and talked to him about that it was very necessary to also educate people, because what if he landed there and he had all these great computer-aided design cut machines over there and all the software and technology out there, but he had a bunch of people that had no clue what to do. So he needed me. I told him he needed me to make this change happen. I could help him educate these people. So first, I was completely on the wrong track to really focus on the technology, and by focusing on different topics, I was able to convince him. And from that moment on, he was very positive and very supportive. And I spent 3 months there, educated the whole team of people, set up the environment there, and the project was successful. That was one of the mistakes that I made, focusing too much on technology. Yeah, as you guys said before, it's been a theme throughout my career, this integrated approach.
Yeah, that'll resonate with a lot of people. Like the technologist is often the guy who wants to sit behind the computer and figure it all out on their own.
Yeah.
Like you said, you can't. You're alongside there's other people in the trenches, and we've got to work together. Yeah. So Menno, what's up next for you? Like, what are you? I know you're always looking ahead, and you've got a few very exciting things happening with Contact, but what does the future look like for you, and what are you excited about, what's coming up?
Well, what I really love, what I see that's happening at the moment is, of course, this digital transformation is something and that I really envision as the game changer for the industry. So all the future where we are deploying BIM across the whole organization and digital twins to be a standard practice in our industry. I think that is a future that is really happening. And next to that, I see that there's so many solutions that can help the industry go forward, like robotics and automation really deployed across the industry. One of the big things I'm working on currently with a number of clients here in Saudi Arabia is really focusing on industrialized design and construction. So really moving the construction works from on-site to a more off-site environment, often called modular, modern methods of construction, or modular, or DFMA, or DFMAD, stands for design for manufacturing, assembly, and disassembly. So these kind of topics, I really see that this will really change the industry in a big way. But also topics like 3D printing and advanced manufacturing. The whole topic of sustainability has always been of interest to myself. So also here in the kingdom, we are now seeing slowly that sustainability is also becoming very important. So, and of course, topics like AI and data analytics and really using these technologies to really make use of the data that we are producing across the whole life cycle of our industry. We are producing so much data, and we forget to make use of that data. And there's a lot of examples now in the industry. In NEOM, we built our project situation room where we really provided great insights to the chief project officer and his team to really make informed decisions about what was happening on the construction site based on all the data streams that were coming from AI cameras, all the data that was being collected on the construction site. So a lot of opportunities in that space that can really help our industry to be more efficient and etc. Information management, a lot of things to happen in that space still. Smart cities, and also the fact of standardization, open standards. Organizations like Building Smart International, very important in the industry to standardize ways of working in the industry. We have launched a chapter here in Saudi Arabia also recently for Building Smart International. So also here in Saudi Arabia, we are now focusing on supporting the industry to also deploy these open standards to make information exchange happen easier. So yeah, change will happen, and we all need to work hard to support that. And there's a lot of great companies out there, like yours, also in Australia, that are really playing an important role in the industry to make this change happen.
Yeah, thanks. One thing I want to sort of dive in, like you've just now mentioned a whole lot of, I guess, work fronts. Like a construction company has got to be aware of a lot of things, and it's a really competitive space. The life of a builder is a pretty tough one because they've got to keep track of a lot. What does the builder of the future, how do they prioritize some of these things that you've mentioned? There's a lot to go on. How do they do information management, or how data is flowing? How do they prioritize some of these sorts of things?
A very good question. One of the things we are offering now through Saudi Contact here in Saudi Arabia, and that was an initiative that started in Royal BAM Group when I was working there, and we also took that up in NEOM. And in NEOM we called it the Digital Plan of Works, and I would rather call it a digital building blocks approach. So we see all these building blocks here. You can see them as all small Lego blocks that are available for the industry. Topics like 3D modeling or 4D scheduling or quantity takeoff or lean or AI and machine learning. There's a lot of these topics, IoT, and there's dozens of these topics that can be implemented in organizations. What we are now doing, we are helping organizations through this digital building blocks approach to help them identify which of these building blocks they would like to focus on between now and their future most desired end state, their moonshot. So we have this large array of digital building blocks available. We work with companies to look into these building blocks, and they prioritize these building blocks. Yeah, we want to focus on that. We want to focus on that. And typically you see that they want to focus on way too many of these activities. And then we start building some sort of a roadmap for these organizations where we work with them to identify, hey, let's start with this topic, this digital building block. Once we have that finished, we can take up 2 or 3 more in the next phase of our digital transformation. So it's really a roadmap approach using this digital building block environment that we have available to really help organizations to slowly, but also in the most efficient way to make their digital transformation happen. And that typically is a roadmap of a couple of years and maybe even longer. But that's the way that we try to support companies to not make too much change happen at once.
So this digital plan of works approach, do you have some kind of template or something? Like, is that how you kind of speak to a construction company, say, these are what you can pick from, what are you focused on? And that's a consultation approach, yeah?
Exactly. These digital building blocks, and that's why we call it digital plan of works also. Some of these digital building blocks are really focused on specific phase in the life cycle of the construction industry. So some of them are really focused around the design and engineering phase. Others are really focused in the construction phase itself. And some of them are only focused on the operation and maintenance phase. So that's why we also use this term digital plan of works. So yeah, we have a menu. We have an overview of all these digital building blocks that an organization can pick from, and really help these organizations to implement the right building blocks at the right time.
Yeah, excellent. So you've mentioned a lot of things around information management and kind of the future. You've seen an evolution from 2D to CAD to 3D to BIM. Data seems to be a real frontier at the moment. What do you think that word data really means in construction today, having worked on some of the biggest projects in the world?
Yeah. It can mean a lot of things, I think. I think during the whole life cycle, we are collecting data in many phases of this life cycle. I've been using this image of the digital twin life cycle approach in the industry, where we have 6 major steps. The first 3 steps really focusing on the digital phase of the project, and the final 3 steps focusing on the physical phase of the project. Step 1 is really identifying a current situation using laser scanning, using drones or laser scanning machine devices, and a lot of data is being produced there. So scan data, laser scan data, that is a first step, and that can be above ground, but there can also be a lot of data gathered below ground with ground penetrating radar or other types of boreholes that are being done. A lot of this data is being collected to identify the current state of a project. That can be a greenfield or a project to be renovated. Second step, you start designing. A lot of data is being created, and that is different kind of data. That is often model data that is being produced. A third phase, you're looking into optimizing this design, looking into all different kinds of you look at scheduling, you look at estimating, you look at visualization, you look at lighting, and all these topics. So a lot of additional data is being produced to work on. And then when the construction process starts, we identified 3 phases in that life cycle, where the first phase is that we start producing our elements in factories. So really looking at the more industrialized way of working. And of course, a lot of data being created again. And then our assembly stage, when we assemble those components into their end state, into the final building, where actually a lot of choices are being made on the materials, on the specific equipment that's being installed, like air conditioning units or lighting or doors and windows, etc., etc. Again, a lot of data about producers, about during the construction phase, you are doing a lot of progress management, looking at progress during the construction site. You do a lot of work on or managing your employees on the construction site, their location, if they're still in a safe environment, if they're not too close to heavy machinery. Again, a lot of data that is being produced. This is a huge amount of data that is collecting. And not too long ago, we were doing nothing with this data. We were collecting it and we were just using it in a specific phase in the industry. And now with new technologies coming up, we are able to connect this data and really help people to make informed decisions about what is really going on the construction site and prevent mistakes and improve welfare for our workers and improve the safety on the construction site, improve the quality of our construction works, etc., etc. So, and then the final step in this physical phase is the operation and maintenance phase or the facility management phase. And I think that's also a phase where a lot of data is being produced using IoT devices, where it plays a very important role, and we can do predictive maintenance in buildings, etc., etc. So data is, some people use the term data is the new oil, but data is essential for our industry to really make this change happen. And
and you spoke to some of the actual value of the data in, safer construction and other things. Do you think it's, and maybe this question, maybe there's no real answer to it, but do you think it's the real-time actions that you can take from data that are more valuable, or is it, looking behind and optimizing a process for the future? How do you actually apply this just volume of information into change?
Yeah, I think it's all of the topics that you mentioned. In NEOM, we built this project situation room, where the first name of the project was a project control room, but we didn't really like the word control. We really wanted to add value to the project management team, so we changed the name into the project situation room to really show the current situation of the project. And I think the real added value of that project situation room was to help starting up discussions with the project management team about what was really happening on site. Before that, they were being informed with some boring Excel graphs or tables which was data from about 4 weeks to 8 weeks earlier. So
Too old.
Too old data. And this project situation room was really giving them actual insight on what was happening on the construction, or real-time insight in what was happening on the construction site at that time. So they were seeing trucks. They saw trucks. We had all our trucks and our heavy equipment installed with IoT devices, so you could follow exactly where trucks were going, where the heavy machinery was working. So the CPO said, "Hey, what's happening there on that? We are not doing anything there. Why are all these trucks and this heavy equipment? What are they doing there?" And then one of the guys in the room said, "Oh yeah, we made a decision to move the teams to there to do some work there." Yeah, really having this real-time insight really made a big change and really helped the team to better understand what was going on the construction.
Because they then had transparency they probably never had previous to that.
Exactly.
Yeah, wow.
Very cool.
It's wonderful to have you in the room, and you've been really part of this Saudi initiative the past several years. Do you want to speak to perhaps the effect that's happening over there with the amount of talent that's being dragged together and the big problems that are being attacked? Like, how do you think that's going to perhaps play out over the next several years? Is it going to be real, innovation coming out of that group of?
Yeah, I see Saudi Arabia is really attracting a lot of talent from across the globe. When I was working in NEOM, we had over 100 different nationalities in the team from everywhere in the globe. So they are really making a change. But what I think is most important about what's happening in Saudi Arabia is that unlike other parts of the Middle East, Saudi Arabia is really trying to focus on what they call Saudiization or localization. They are really focused on upskilling their citizens For every expat that is doing some work here, it is very important to have a team of Saudi people around that expat to educate those Saudi people and replace that expat with local Saudi people. So I think they're doing that in a very good way, in a very smart way. Saudis are very eager to also really be active in the industry, work in the industry, as I said, unlike other parts of the Middle East. I think they're doing a great job to really make that happen here. So having very smart Saudi people, and some of them are, or most of them are also educated outside of Saudi. So in the past decennia, young Saudis were given a grant to study outside in the UK or Australia or US to study at universities over there, then come back to Saudi Arabia and deploy their knowledge in the industry here. And I'm working here now with many of these highly educated Saudis that are, well, doing a great job here to really transform the country into a complete new way of working. So it's not only the expats that are doing a great job here. I think I really have to give credit to the Saudis here that are really making this change happen, are really working very hard together to really make this change happen here in the country.
Yes, it's really going to upskill everybody, the locals as well as all the expats, who one day go home with all this experience and knowledge potentially as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, what's going on here is it's just amazing. Sometimes the ambition is a bit too high, but that is also done intentionally. Yeah, they try to push the boundaries. When things come to reality, you see that what's happening here is really making this change. And the media across the world sometimes looks at Saudi Arabia, or they're having all these fantastic dreams and it will never happen. But in reality, things are really happening. If you look at what's happening at NEOM at the moment, things are really happening out there. And so the line, for example, the original plan was, or the original vision or ambition was to build a 100-mile long linear city before 2030. That was the first ambition. Of course, everybody knew that was difficult and that would probably not happen. And now they changed that vision to a 3.2 kilometer linear city to be finished by 2030, which is really possible and is going to happen. And then gradually this city will grow over time, and it will eventually reach to this 100-mile or 170 kilometer long linear city. The ambition is high. Reality, when it kicks in, they are really able to change their ambition to a feasible project size or scope and duration. So yeah, I think they're doing a good job.
Well, you got to shoot for the moon, don't you?
You have to, yeah.
Yeah.
Menno, you've got a very realistic and kind of pragmatic approach to change, which is obviously working really well. When you bring in a technology like AI and throw that into the mix of construction, how do you think that's going to work? Do you think it's something that's going to happen quickly or slowly? How do you think AI is going to play out?
I think it's already playing a big role in the industry. So you see a lot of examples in the engineering phase, deploying topics like generative design into the industry, where AI is being used to speed up the design and to use less engineers to really make this generate this design. We had examples in Royal BAM where we developed a complete neighborhood in like a couple of hours. In the past, that took 2 weeks or months to develop this neighborhood, really based on these generative design technologies. We see a lot of these opportunities being implemented in the industry at the moment. And I think another topic where AI plays a very important role is to really help organizations and project teams to use a large amount of data and to help them to make informed decisions about this large data sets. Those are two examples I see where AI really makes a big change.
Yeah, agreed. All right, mate. So we're coming close towards the end now. We do have a quick fire round, some silly questions. You're you're about to go do a bit of work, maybe building a dam. Are you going to pick a hammer, screwdriver or a duct tape to do some work in the backyard there?
I'll probably use a hammer to really compact the stones to really make it possible for the water not to go through.
And if you had to pick one material, would you pick concrete, steel, or timber to build out of?
Timber for sure. I think that has to do with sustainability aspects. Concrete is one of the worst sustainable products that we have in the world. Of course, timber still has a difficulty, especially here in the Middle East. People rather see concrete and steel because they are afraid that timber will have fire hazards, and timber are. But if you see what's happening in Europe, in the Nordics, and in other parts of Europe, timber is really making a big change, and more and more buildings are built using CLT and those kind of materials. Timber.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And you've probably seen a lot of different technology, and particularly hardware technology, coming out the past few years. What's your favorite kind of bit of hardware tech that you've seen?
I would say that there's a lot of things going through my mind now. What would be? Yeah, I think robotics is probably the number one. I would say. I'm hesitating a little bit, but I've done quite a bit of work.
Construction robotics, like laying the bricks, those type of robots. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But also the how do you call that? The vests that you can use to make lifting easier. The harnesses, the robot harnesses. So robotics in a very wide scope. It can be 3D printing, robotics for 3D printing, for bricklaying. Indeed, you see robots drilling holes, the Hilti robot drilling holes, the plastering robots. There's a lot of these robots that are being used, and Spot the Dog, for example, that's being used for accessing difficult areas on construction sites, or carrying laser scans or 360-degree cameras to do progress monitoring. I think robotics will play an important role in the industry to replace heavy human labor and make the industry more accessible, and improve its efficiency and worker conditions.
Yeah, definitely. Menno, we've really appreciated your time, shared a lot of advice and wisdom from your experience, and also the incredible projects you've worked on. It's been very exciting to hear about those. And we just want to thank you so much for your time, for coming on the show today, and for sharing all that with us.
Thank you so much, guys, and thanks for your very great questions and making it possible for me to provide all these insights. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Menno.